no sign of whatsoever. Like, I didn't notice anything.
So we need to figure out possibly how his skull got fractured.
I wish I could tell you. I've never seen anybody put any of those children ever. I never, ever would cover up for anybody, not even for a death.
If you did something that was an accident, though?
I would say something.
These are just a few of the many denials made by Melissa Kalusinski. Melissa, a daycare worker, was interrogated by police after being accused of murdering 16-month-old Benjamin Kingen. According to reports, Ben had been sick for a few days, but on the day of the incident, he seemed fine. His parents gave him some medicine and dropped him off at the daycare where Melissa worked. Little did they know that this would be the last day they'd see their son alive.
And the way I usually like to do this is I like to start out from the beginning of that day. Let's say you got up.
Yeah.
And you got yourself ready for work.
Ready for work.
About what time was that?
I left at like 6:50.
So this was Wednesday morning, about
Yeah.
6:50. And you drive yourself into work.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I got there till like 8:20.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I clocked in.
And who was there when you got there?
Wendy, she's the head teacher.
Okay.
And a few other staff that, because our kids before in the morning, because we keep them all in one room.
Okay.
They were in the baby room, and then when we had like 13, we split them in half and then bring my kids with Wendy into our room.
Okay.
So, and when I got there, that's when we split them in half.
Is that like a required number? You can
Yeah.
only have so many kids in a room?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the maximum amount of kids?
For right now, for the toddlers, the infants, infant toddlers, it would be like a ratio of 4 for one teacher.
Okay, 4. But you can have 8 to 12 if you have, let's say, 3 teachers in one room?
Yeah, up
Okay.
to 12, we can have 3 teachers.
Okay.
Everything was perfect.
How many kids?
There was 8 in my
8
room
kids.
today.
So it was you and Gwendy,
Yeah. Mhm.
including, what's the child's name? Ben. All right, go ahead.
And when
What
we brought him
time?
in,
I'm sorry. What time do you think you got in there with the kids, with your group?
about like 8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
And she was finishing up, and then I started writing down what they had for breakfast.
Gwendy was finishing up.
Yeah, she was finishing up, trying to get the rest of the kids and get everything together, bringing diapers and everything that we had in the other classrooms, that kids that weren't changed,
Okay.
that we would change them in our room.
So Gwendy would leave, come back with diapers.
Yeah,
So she
and
was
I
gone.
had help with my sister also. We
So
had
you-
help with other teachers bringing the kids in.
Okay, but you were with the kids the whole time?
Yeah. So after that, we were playing with the kids.
What time was that now?
Around like 8:40.
Okay. Any of the kids,
We didn't notice anything at all. Everyone was happy playing.
okay.
There was no sign of change.
From the start, Melissa portrayed herself as a concerned, dutiful teacher who cared deeply for the children at daycare. What she didn't realize was that the interrogating officers were not getting convinced one bit.
Everything was going fine, and then once around like 9 o'clock, 9:15, we start doing early breaks for the ones that came early. Because Gwendy, she comes in the mornings at like 6:30, 6:45 to open,
Mm-hmm.
and then she goes on break at like 9:15, and then I have, there's another teacher that comes in there with me that helps me out and everything while she's on break. So another certified teacher would come in.
So did Gwendy take her break that morning?
Yeah,
Does she do it at the same time every time?
yeah.
What time was that?
Her breaks are at 9.
So she took a break at 9?
Yeah.
Okay. And who came in at 9 o'clock?
It was either a teacher, her name was Nancy. She's here Monday through Wednesday.
So Nancy was there Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. So Nancy came in for the break?
Yeah.
And how long was Nancy in there?
An hour.
Okay. So now you got a lesson plan and you guys start reading to the
We
kids.
started reading.
And there's still nothing unusual? Nothing? Okay.
They sit and listen, and then usually we try and read to them for like five minutes. They're still really young, so
Right.
they're
Attention
really,
span's not
Yeah.
bad. Right.
So we just let them play, and then we have music playing too.
Mhm.
So they danced and playing, and then me or Wendy, we do bubbles every so often too, because they like the bubbles.
Nothing happened while Wendy was gone. Now 10 o'clock, she comes back, you guys do your lesson plans, and then what?
We play with kids.
Okay.
We do check the charts for diapers and see who needs diapers,
Okay.
because we change diapers every 2 hours.
Okay. Do you recall anything at that point, Ben acting unusual or anything like that?
He was happy. He was
When you say
walking
happy, how old is he? 16?
15 months.
Okay. When you say he's happy, what do you mean?
He was just had a big smile on his face. He would play a lot. He would play with his sister, crawl, and he was just getting used to like walking. So he wasn't walking that well yet.
Okay. But he could walk. What would he just like walk and then go down on all fours, or have to hold on to something?
Usually what we've been trying to do, because he has a twin sister in there too, we like usually they'd be like uppies, like wanting us to pick him up.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
what we've been doing, we've just been like, come on, and then we help them up, or they pull on our pant leg, and then we hold on to their hands, and
Okay.
we walk around the room with them.
So does he communicate?
Yeah.
So he can say words?
Yeah.
Okay.
He would say ball a lot, and started to say not nice.
Okay.
So.
Oh, good.
Investigation reports reveal that Melissa noticed Ben had been dozing off way too often that day, which was unusual for him. She later discovered him motionless with orange foam coming out from his nose and yelled for help. Sadly, little Ben passed away. It was indeed a tragedy. The only problem was that according to the investigating officers, medical reports suggested that Ben's head had a fracture. It indicated that Ben had died from a horrifying and massive head trauma. Since Melissa was the only one present near Ben at the time, she became the prime suspect. Throughout her interrogation, she repeatedly denied knowing anything. 79 times to be exact, desperately trying to prove her innocence. But would her denials be enough to save her? And was she telling the truth?
And he was just like bottling her head, being silly, funny, and playing with his sister and a few other kids. And then when he went into his little spot, and his sister was, because his sister started saying his name, and they pick on each other. And I was watching them, and I was making sure he was doing absolutely great, nothing wrong, as again. And then sometimes in the day he will fall asleep, but we do keep him up because usually mom doesn't want him sleeping up at 5, and we want to be having him more active and all the kids active, so that by the time we move them next door, they're not so cranky and everything and crying and whining, because there's younger babies in the room. I looked over, and I was looking back and forth where I can see all the kids, and he was in his chair, and he was starting to fall asleep.
Okay.
I'm like, Ben, and he responded, and because I saw him move and his eyes opened. His eyes were squinting.
Okay.
And when I would say Ben, and you just see his eyes opening a little bit. And then he would no sign of whatsoever, I didn't notice anything, because I've seen how
What do you mean no sign of no sign?
he
He
him
wasn't
acting
responding.
him acting any different.
Any different
no
than he normally
movement.
does? Okay.
And when I saw him again, it was not even a second. It was just boom, again, Ben. And I went over. He didn't respond to me, so I went over thinking, I fell asleep and I wasn't sure. And then that's when he wasn't moving, and that it was just I was trying to make sure he was awake, and I didn't want to move anything just in case, if something did. And that's when Crystal,
What do you mean just in case?
well, if anything, if he was sensitive, of anything, of some sort, because as soon as I went over there,
So she heard you go Ben,
yeah,
and then what?
and then I went to the phone, and then she came running in as soon as possible.
Did you ever talk to anybody on the phone?
Yeah.
Who?
I heard it was Beth, I believe.
Did you go on the intercom? Is that what you did? Or?
I dialed the
Oh, you
number.
dialed?
Yeah.
What'd you dial?
To the front desk. And I
Okay.
told them that,
Is that like a 1, 2, 3-digit extension?
it was 2 digits.
2-digit.
And then I
What's
was
the
like
extension number?
10.
10. Okay.
Yeah, can I get some more help? You know, he's starting to, I see foam and just stuff coming through his nose.
And who are you saying that to?
To Beth.
Beth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, Crystal Stucker, she picked up Ben immediately. We both reacted like within a second. And that's when Crystal was like, Beth, you know, can you come in here? I need your help. And I was trying to get the kids.
Who said that?
Crystal.
Was she still in the room with Ben?
Yeah, she had Ben
In the room.
in the room.
And you were in there too?
Yeah.
Okay. And then she says, she yells, or what does she do?
No, Beth was right there too, coming.
Okay, so Beth was in the hallway, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Could
then-
Crystal see Beth from where she was at? No.
Well, she was like right there around the corner. She stuck her head out because the door was a little bit open.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, as soon as she said that, I came running in the room.
Okay.
I got all the kids away from there immediately. She had Ben put him on the changing table, and then like immediately did CPR right before Beth could even get on the phone and did 911. And then when we were, she was doing CPR, Beth was on the phone exactly with the paramedics when she was on the phone. And we did everything, and at the time we did get a pulse. And he did have a heartbeat, he really did. And
You were there the
I
whole
was
time?
there.
Were you holding him, or?
no,
Okay.
I was watching to make sure and making sure the kids weren't even near the kitchen area because he had vomit.
How do you know there was a pulse?
Sandy was checking for pulse because Sandy came in right after Beth did. So we were checking for pulses. They did up his arm here, and as soon as we saw that she was doing the CPR and the breathing and everything, I saw like the vomit, everything. You could literally see he was starting to breathe a little bit, and he did have a heartbeat. And once we got the pulse and everything, the paramedics came within 30 seconds.
Okay.
And they used, I forgot the name of the container where they do the shock for little kids.
Defibrillator?
Defibrillator. Didn't even say no shock required because he had a pulse and a heartbeat.
How did you know there was a problem, like when you first called his name? I mean, you're
He was, we just tried waking him up, and
But you were by yourself, right?
for not even a sec, like 2 seconds.
But you looked at him and you called his name?
Yeah, first time. I didn't even take my eyes off of
And what happened when you called his name?
the first time his eyes opened and he started responding.
And then what?
And then he, like a second later, he like closed his eyes and I'm like, Ben, wake up, you know.
How far away were you from him at that time?
I would say from like here to like probably half of the door, like in the first corner.
When did you see you said you saw some stuff coming out of his mouth or his nose?
No.
When did you see that?
When I got on the phone and Crystal picked him up. That's when I got on the phone and told Beth to come, and Crystal even said that.
How far away were you? How far is the phone from where he was at?
From where I was at?
He's still in his chair, right?
Yeah.
And
then
the
I was
phone,
over
where's
there.
the phone?
It was like close to like,
How far is that?
I don't know. It wasn't that far down.
And Crystal was already in the room? Okay. And you could see stuff coming from his nose and his mouth?
Not from the mouth, but the nose.
Just the nose. What did you see coming from his nose?
Like an orange red foam.
Yeah.
And then after that, when she was doing the mouth treatment and everything, that's when the vomit was coming.
The details Melissa was sharing were horrifying, but with each one, the officers grew more suspicious of her. It was clear they had already decided that Melissa had a hand in this situation, which is why their questions became increasingly repetitive, probing for just one slip-up to pin it all on her. But at that moment, it wasn't enough, so they kept pushing for more information.
And Monday, though, he was sick. He didn't have a temperature
When was that?
Monday.
Monday?
And we noticed me and Wendy, as soon as we got him up from the nap, he was clean. He was white and pale, and he was coughing. He didn't touch any of the snack. He had pretzels, cheese, and juice. He didn't touch it, and Sandy and Beth were in there too.
All right. We're going to take a short break, let you kind of compose yourself a little bit too, and then we have a couple more questions to ask you. Okay?
When this all started, there was only you in the room, right? And your sister heard you screaming his name. Well, part of what we do, Melissa, is we're with the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force, and we investigate homicides. That's pretty much all we do. So every homicide that occurs in the county of Lake County, they call us, and we take this over. Okay, we investigate the incident, and our success rate is pretty high because this is all we do, and this is what we're trained for. And we have a medical staff on our team, professional people that are certified to deal with children, adults, medical examiners, FBI, evidence technicians. We have a huge team, okay? The reason that we were called in this incident is because Ben's skull was fractured, okay? We're sure that somebody did this to him, or it's a medical certainty that somebody's done this to him. What we need to know right now is if this was done by accident or did somebody intentionally hurt them.
I would never put my hands on it, ever. I've never put my hand on the child, ever. And I've never taken my eyes off of those kids.
Because there's one thing to hurt someone intentionally, to grab them and throw them up against the wall or swing them into the wall where they would hit their head. But it's another thing if someone dropped them or if they just try to discipline them and got out of control. But we need to get to the bottom of this because this could be a real serious thing.
It's concerning how the officers had already decided Melissa was at fault. Their only concern seemed to be whether it was intentional or accidental. Despite Melissa's repeated denials of any involvement, the officers appeared adamant in their belief that she was responsible.
And if something ever was to be an accident, it's hard to say later after someone lied about a situation, because at the end of this investigation, we're going to get to the bottom of this, because this is all we're going to do. We have 40 people on our team. So we need to know the truth right from the get-go. Right now, every single person that works at your place is talking to 2 detectives. So we need to figure out possibly how his skull got fractured.
I wish I could tell you. I've never seen anybody put any hands on any of those children ever.
Wound that he had on his head is something, medical certainty, that would have happened right away when he started going into unconsciousness.
Something that couldn't have happened before he got to school at that point. It's something that happened while he was there. Sean's trying to tell you that, and you know what, medical evidence, it just doesn't lie. Okay, that we're certain, based on, and when he says medical examiner, it means a coroner. They did an autopsy on that.
Yeah.
And there's definite medical scientific evidence, substantial. I mean, it's just not something like a tiny bruise. We're talking a skull fracture, and in a child, a skull fracture is far different than even an adult. Because a child's skull, depending on the age, and he's 16 months old, is soft, not fully developed. So for a skull fracture to occur, it would have to be a substantial blow, and not just a tap. Now, That's not saying that that couldn't have been done accidentally, with a fall or something. Those situations do happen because there could be pre-existing conditions, other medical issues that we don't know about. But one thing we are certain about is that while he was in the care of the facility, this is when this happened.
Now here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Years later, it was revealed that these officers never had access to the medical records. When Benjamin's x-rays were re-examined, there was no sign of any fracture either. So why were they pushing Melissa? Were they looking for a scapegoat in this entire situation?
We deal with pretty evil people, we deal with murderers. That's what we do for a living. So we can recognize evil people, we can recognize good people, okay? Somebody who's in the child care industry, very rarely are they going to be in there for malicious or evil purposes. They're there to do what? Take care of children and do good, be what's called a caretaker, right? Definitely based, and that's why I was asking you kind of about your work history. This is something that's part of your career. You obviously are not an evil person. I can tell that. I can tell that the minute, in our job, we have to, for our own safety, and just because it's the nature of our job, we have to do what's called immediate assessments of individuals. Because we only have a second to react sometimes, right? When we look at somebody like you, and that's what Sean and I have been having a couple of discussions, here's a person that, under bad circumstances, bad timing, wrong place, wrong time, maybe indirectly have knowledge of something, but is compelled not to because they're scared. There are situations where evil people do evil things. You know that serial killers out there. You were a victim of sexual assault, so you understand personally, on a personal level, what intent and evil is. There are other people that, under bad circumstances, get into situations where they don't have any choice because of the circumstances. You pull out of your parking lot to go home, suddenly somebody blows a red light, you hit them, somebody in the car dies. Does that make you an evil person? No, you're a person of circumstance.
At this point, the officers were trying every tactic to make Melissa second guess what had happened.
We need to know from you what you know about this beyond what you've told us. And I can tell you, and please, don't mistake, don't make a mistake and not tell us the truth. Because we're very close scientifically of putting pieces together. We need you to finalize that piece for us to tell us exactly what happened. And you're a good person. Reach down inside yourself and help this family. What happened?
I don't even know. We were doing CPR and
Well, listen, the whole
I
thing
didn't do.
the whole thing is when you talk about a certain crime or anything, it's a big word that comes up in court is intent. If someone intended on, if I go up and shoot George in the head, I intentionally, probably try to kill him, because it would be pretty obvious that that would lead to his death. So in that case, I would be in trouble with the court. So most of the laws, if something happens on intent, then there's everyday accidents. People get in accidents every day, like in cars, and there's a car accident, and the result is somebody dies, but the person who gets into an accident with them doesn't get in trouble. You've heard that before, right? So that's what the law is about. The law is all about if someone intentionally tried to do something to somebody. They intended on. We think in this situation, I know somebody caused the action for Ben's skull to get fractured. What we need to know is we don't think somebody intended on hurting him. We don't think someone intended on killing him. We think that something happened. We know that something happened that caused this injury to him.
Something that perhaps got a little out of control or a misstep somehow. It wasn't like somebody woke up Wednesday morning and said, I'm going to drive the Mini Subi and I'm going to kill Ben. No. But we also believe that you know a lot more than you're telling us. And please, for your own sake.
I swear, there was no problem like, me and Wendy, we never, like, the mom even said, though, he does throw his fits, and he has a tantrum fits, and sometimes he'll throw himself on the ground
Well,
and have a fit.
we know from this injury, we know for a fact that this injury could not have happened from him just merely falling from a
Yeah.
standing position. That could not happen. It's already scientifically ruled out by the coroner. You watch CSI and stuff, we can tell
Yeah.
how many pounds per square inch caused an injury. We can tell everything. So we know, we're certain that this did not happen from him just casually falling or throwing himself on the ground. We need to know what happened to put him in that position. We know that he just didn't fall on the ground
Yeah.
because of where the injury is on him. It couldn't happen, and because of the force, he can't generate enough force to do that. And I want you to understand, Melissa, is accidents happen every single day. We will never be finished with this case, ever, till we get to the bottom of this. It's never gonna go away. We need to get it out there. Don't be scared to tell us the truth, because the truth is what helps people. But when people hide something, it makes them look guilty of something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No,
You gotta come clean, because I have a good idea that you've seen what happened, or you were involved with what happened, because you were the only one in the room at the onset of this.
Well, before everything happened, he, like I said, he crawled and went into his chair, and I didn't touch any of the, when he was, at the time too, like when he fell asleep and he was being unresponsive, I only took his arm and I went like this a little bit. I didn't touch his head, nothing.
Yeah.
And
Prior to that, though, when he went unresponsive.
He was laying back on the chair, and that was, like, when he was unresponsive, nobody touched him at all. Like, the kids, like, before he was unresponsive and everything, and after the kids left, like, his sister and a little boy was with them, and they were giggling, laughing, and I was
Right.
watching them.
A lot of the stuff that you say, like stuff like that lets us know, because what ended up happening when you have a fractured skull, you end up dying from, basically your brain shuts down your body because your brain swells up. Something along those lines. I'm not a doctor, but just to explain it in layman's terms, we know for a fact, and it's a medical fact, that he would not have been able to eat his lunch. He wouldn't have been able to take his nap. He wouldn't be able to be giggling. So all this stuff had to happen right away when he went unconscious.
What do you think should happen to somebody who murders a child?
I really wouldn't know, like,
Well, let me ask you, on the other hand, what do you think should happen to somebody who accidentally causes someone to die?
well, if it was like an accidental, like,
If it's an accident, they didn't mean for them to
Yeah.
die.
Right.
like
So-
really, it was like an accident.
There wasn't any, like Sean was saying, there wasn't
Yeah.
any intent, there wasn't any plan. Right? And that's what we firmly believe, that this wasn't intentional. We've investigated a number of these types of cases where not only caretakers but parents get out of hand, or inadvertently something happens, and they go into this denial mode because it's a traumatic thing.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic thing for everybody. It's
And-
very traumatic. It's a lot of guilt to live with for the rest of your life. It really is.
Melissa was being outright accused of a crime she didn't commit. However, her biggest mistake was not consulting a lawyer. The officers continued with their tactics, relentlessly pushing her and trying to break her down. Sadly, after hours and hours of pure torture, she started to break.
A lot of people, they talk when something like this happens, they talk to the police and they try to put up walls to distance themselves. But in the reality, it's hurting them, because it would make somebody look more guilty that they intended on hurting this person.
I had nothing to do with it.
I don't think that you intended on hurting him.
I never put my hands on that after.
No. Well, we need to know what happened to Ben that day. He just said 16-month baby, Melissa. and I don't think you're definitely not a mean person, but I have a son, and I swear to God, so many times I accidentally hit his head on stuff. Every time I walk through a frickin' door, I swear to God, I hit his head. He falls down all the time. My baby's 8 months old, so I know he hits his head back, hits a chair. There's always accidents. It doesn't make me a bad person at all. If something happened, please let us know. Did you hit his head by accident with something?
No, nothing.
No.
Did somebody else hit his head with something?
You would probably maybe talk to Nancy sometimes because sometimes when she would pick him up, sometimes like and then put him on a chair or something, his head would hit the back of the chair. So that's the only thing.
This is something though that would have happened because of what the medical examiner told us. Is this something that on the onset of this injury, that's when he would have lost consciousness, which is when you were in the room. So it couldn't have been something that happened hours before, because this kind of injury to his head, he wouldn't have been able to function, and that's why he went into unconsciousness. I don't know if someone walked in and you're covering for someone that you're not telling us.
I don't know. It was me and Nancy. You probably have to talk to Nancy, I swear.
But you know when, was your sister in there before you were calling for help at all, Crystal? She wasn't?
Like when I called, when she came in, and then she put Ben on the changing table.
Was she in there prior to that incident when you called for help, when you said Ben, when you were screaming with your sister in the room?
No, she wasn't.
It would be a logical person would probably think that maybe that person shouldn't get into that much trouble.
The officers were doing everything they could to coax a confession out of Melissa, leading her to believe that if she confessed, the consequences would be minimal, since it was unintentional. However, the reality was far different from what they were suggesting.
Can't even imagine how he hit his head or who hit his head. Like, because, I mean, it's hard to, like, you know, I had my eyes on everybody, and he was in a wide open space, and I never, like, didn't do anything to him towards his head, nothing.
Nancy did something, and you have knowledge of that. You're helping us, you're helping yourself. That's phenomenal. But if you're being reluctant in saying something about Nancy, then you really are accepting part of the responsibility. That's what the perception is going to be. So if Nancy did something inadvertently, and you feel that maybe a little guilty about not reporting it right away or not taking some kind of action, don't. You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor. You don't have x-ray vision. Kids fall or kids hit their heads 1,000 times. You know, I've got 2 kids, and the first one we treated like a China doll because we thought she would break. The second one would take tumbles all the time and and as you have more kids, you sort of grow immune and used to those types of injuries.
Before everything happened, I was giving him a snack. I just used I cleaned them off and everything when they were all done. After I cleaned up Ben's hands and everything, I put him down, and he called. He was fine before all that, and I believe I changed his diapers. When I changed his diapers, like, he didn't hit his head or anything, and like, it's just questionable to me now if when Nancy held him, maybe if he threw a fit and hit like, ran into something to a point where he hit his head hard. Like, cause like I keep saying over and over, I made sure like he was safe. And he cries. He doesn't really like her.
Did you see her do anything?
As far as I know.
Not as far as you know.
Don't protect
I
Nancy.
know I'm not protecting
It's
Nancy, but
Did you ever see her do anything before? Ever?
like
To a
pick
kid?
him up. No,
Smack a kid?
no, never.
Throw him
She
into a
just
wall?
no,
Throw him in a crib?
no.
You didn't see her do anything to this kid?
I swear. I'm just maybe wondering if when she would hold him, that, you know, she'd run into something, or when she would put him down, she didn't put him down nicely or gently to a point where he would
It's
hit
not
his
gonna,
heart.
this
I
injury
don't
isn't
know.
caused from something
No.
like that.
Because I'm
It's something either
clueless.
you done or Nancy did, because it was something that just happened then, and it's something that couldn't be done without someone else noticing, because it had to be done with a considerable amount of force.
I'm seriously bringing back and thinking back then
Right.
of Wednesday. I know for a fact that I did not do anything. I did not see anything with my own eyes for him to even have a fractured skull like that. Because when I first found out that I had maybe something to do with it,
When did you find that out?
yesterday from the DCFS, I had a note that me and then the other person
When did you talk to DCFS?
yesterday,
They called you
they came and interviewed me
at your office?
in the lounge.
Okay.
And at the time, I told him, I was just like, and I read it, I was like, and I told my boss, I pulled her into the office and I told her, I'm like, you know, how come my sister didn't get this or whatever, because she did CPR.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time CPR was going on, I pushed all the kids out. Maybe I told her, I'm like, I'm clueless. Why did I get this? Why am I? Seems like I did something wrong.
What did it say?
That I was someone called DCFS on me.
Poor Melissa was becoming so intimidated that she became paranoid, questioning everyone involved and pinning the blame on her own colleagues. Meanwhile, the officers were determined to get a confession of any sort.
We're the law.
Yeah, we
We
don't
understand.
share.
We don't give a shit what you told them.
I
It's
understand.
never
and
gonna make you look bad. You
I
might have been
know.
a little confused and shaken up yesterday, so whatever you told them, I don't want it to in any way affect what you're gonna tell us. Don't try to be consistent
No,
with what you told them.
I am. I'm swearing to you. I am not lying. I am swearing on my aunt's grave and my uncle's that I did not do anything to fracture his skull, and I did not see anything.
Did you ever see Nancy handle the kids roughly?
No, when she would put him down sometimes, she wouldn't support their head sometimes, and she would get a little intimidated and aggravated with the children because they would be crying. I mean, it happens, and yeah, I get
Sure, I know.
aggravated
I
a
get
lot.
aggravated at my own son.
And of course they're gonna cry, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, please, you know, where's your binky? But when sometimes she would pick them up, sometimes she would have them as, you know, sometimes not handle a child that very well. And I know she has 2-3 kids. She has a toddler of her own that's in the other bigger
It doesn't
room.
mean nothing. It
No,
doesn't
I
mean
know.
they're gonna be better with kids,
Oh,
or
I
it
know.
could be worse. We deal
And-
with people who kill their own kids.
And how she would sometimes pick them up. She wouldn't like support them. She'd just pick them up and like hold them like as they're facing towards you. I never ever would cover up for anybody, not even for a death.
If you did something that was an accident though,
I would say something.
you're smart enough to know that you didn't mean to do it, right? If you lost your temper and maybe cracked someone, would you tell us?
Yeah.
You would? Have you ever thrown a kid against a wall?
No.
Have you ever hit a kid's head against anything? Never?
Never.
Did you ever hit Ben?
No. I've known them since they were really little. And when I first started subbing, when I first started in January, I went over there to sub. That's where I first saw them, the twins. They were still babies.
What are the other workers gonna say about you, how you handle the kids?
They'll say that I handle them very well. I don't,
Do you get aggravated easy, or do you?
not really.
In a desperate attempt to avoid going to jail, Melissa shifted the blame to Nancy, though she stopped short of outright accusing her of the horrible deed. However, the officers didn't budge. The interrogation dragged on for 6 hours and would have continued until the cops got exactly what they wanted. But then, something changed after the interrogators took their break. Here's what happened next.
Why wouldn't you guys just let him keep on sleeping in his chair? I mean,
because it was just getting towards the end of the day, and
can he
we were
sleep there
getting.
to the end of the day? I mean, wouldn't he be
We
a lot
had to
easier?
transfer the kids. That was the reason.
Transfer him to what?
Like, put them in a different classroom when we went down.
Was he in this classroom the whole day, Ben?
The classroom I was in?
Yeah.
We're concerned that he's...
Yeah, that too. If he did fall asleep though, we would let him, but he can't sleep up until 5. After 5, he had to be awake because the mom would pick him up. He'll like close his eyes and like open them and just sit there and relax. So that's why I've been keeping him awake.
What you're telling us, based on timelines, based on whatever, is inconsistent, okay? And that's why we're sitting here going, look, we understand that you're looking out for yourself. We understand also that maybe given 24 hours and rolling this back in time, that if we were there and we talked to you almost immediately, that people, when they're in an incident like this, traumatic like that, they really want to tell you immediately what happened. Police officers involved in shootings, as we investigate those, officer wants to tell you right away what happened. He wants to get that off of his chest and say, you know what, the guy pointed a gun at me. I want everyone to know that what I did and why I killed him was justifiable. If you take an incident that was not intentional and it escalated into something, worse, you're not a doctor, you don't have a crystal ball in your hand to predict what could happen.
Okay.
Right? And now all of a sudden, we have no, but we're saying yes, there's a medical factor. Something did happen, okay? And you're very smart. Let me tell you, I'm going to compliment you because you brought up a couple of points in our conversation, of points I've given you about skulls and kids, things like that. And that's great. But don't base your story on things I'm telling you. I'm trying to be honest and factual with you.
Okay.
Okay? I'm laying things out here. I'm not bringing props in here and laying things down and saying, we've got fingerprints and we've got that. I'm being completely honest with you. We find out, because we do this all the time.
Where he was sitting and where I placed him, it was kind of by the changing table and the garbage can. And when I was taking him out, because I didn't stand behind him, I was on the side grabbing him, and he taped probably his head on the back of the changing table. That's the side of the changing table. That's the only thing I can think of right now. Is that he must have hit his head on the changing table, behind the changing table.
You would know if he hit his head or not. This injury was like my partner said, it's like someone getting dropped off a second story. The baby would have started to cry. It would have happened right when this whole thing went down. It would have happened right before it, I think. You would have known, you know exactly when the incident took place. You're making yourself look real bad. We're trying to think that you didn't intend on this injury to happen. You didn't intend on this to happen. But for whatever reason, it did happen. Okay? We need to know, and we need you to tell us, and you need to be honest to help yourself out here. You should be honest with us. What are you most afraid of? Just tell me about this whole situation.
That it could be my fault.
Okay.
I just won't talk to him.
Who?
Their co-workers.
Co-workers? Why?
I don't know.
You think that they never made a mistake in their life?
I just have a gut feeling it's like it should be my fault. Ever since I got a piece of paper, I just felt like, what did I do wrong? And I've been trying to think thoroughly, and that's why I haven't been able to sleep much, because I'm trying to think, what did I do? Or what did Nancy do?
Right. What are you most afraid of if you did something? That your coworkers won't talk to you?
And then I probably would get a fine or go to jail or something.
Well, Melissa, if you didn't, our goal is if you didn't intend on causing pain or to somebody, we wouldn't want you to go to jail. It's like that whole accident theory. If it was a complete accident, even if it was something out of frustration, and maybe you put him in a chair too hard and the chair flipped over, we need to know, but we need to know now. You're worried about your co-workers? Give me a fucking break. This kid's dead. Fuck your co-workers, okay? We'll go tell the people at your work that if this guy, whatever you want us to tell them, that's the least of your concerns right now. But we know for a fact this happened moments before he lost consciousness, and we know you were the only one in the room. So please tell us what happened. Please don't make us drag everything out of you, because it makes it seem like you're being deceitful to us.
When I took him out, I watched him. He was at the edge, and I heard his head hit the back of the table because I didn't fully put him down. It kind of almost slipped when I dropped him, and he hit the chair. And then I heard it. And he didn't. It was fine though, and I made sure that
The changing table?
no, the wooden chair, the wooden chairs.
Like the adult wooden chairs? Or
The
The baby chair.
chair.
Yeah. They have little straps in them.
He hit the back of it.
You hit the back of with his head. That's okay. It's all we've been trying to get from you for this whole time. I know you're upset, okay? I know that you're upset about this, Melissa. But stuff like this happens all the time. You didn't want intent for this little boy to die, right? And who knows? He could have had some pre-existing condition. You know, who knows? But
when you put him in the chair, were you holding him?
No, I
Okay.
just picked him up.
Where was he when you picked him up?
Right on the floor.
On the floor? And why did you pick him up?
Because I just wanted to put him in there and give him a snack right away.
Okay. And did you drop him? Is that what you said? Or
When I took him out of the chair.
okay, so you put him in the chair to get him a snack,
Yeah,
and then when you picked him up, you dropped him.
it kind of slipped. Yeah.
He slipped.
Yeah.
Okay, and you hit his head on the back of the top part of the chair,
Yeah.
and then did he yell or scream?
No.
He didn't do anything.
When I checked his head, it was fine.
Okay.
from now on, don't tell us the truth, and everything will be okay. Don't. That's fine.
It's fine.
We
know that.
understand
know
that you're scared, and we were not lying to you here. We need to know the truth. It's going to help. Did you slam him on the chair? You sure? You wouldn't do that? He just slipped? In the back, his head hit the back of the chair? Why would he have some brute? Did he hit the ground after that, or what happened after he hit the chair?
He seemed normal.
No, on his body, so he fell out of your hands?
When I put him down, I took him out of the snack chair, and then I wiped him up, and then like when I put him down, the other chair was behind him, and I wasn't paying attention. He slipped out of my hands, and his head, he hit it.
How far did he slip?
Like a little bit, like right there.
Don't exaggerate it to make it sound better. If it's an accident, it's an
It's an
accident.
accident.
You got to tell us
Right.
exactly, because we're going to have to be able to prove
What
that.
you're telling us, scientifically, we know what I told you. So you need to really be specific about how he slipped and how far down.
It
So
wasn't that far to a point where it slipped, like he fell off balance, and then he hit his head, and he sat on the floor.
What did he hit his head on?
Wood.
A chair? A back of a chair? And after he hit his head, did he fall onto the floor?
He fell, but he went through the crowd and it was blanket after that.
But
So-
he hit his head and then fell to the ground? And how were you standing up when this happened? Were you standing straight up?
Yeah, I was bending, I like was like this, and it slipped.
Yeah. He slipped, then slipped?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I did like
And how low was the back of the chair?
it was like this tall.
That's why you were watching him? So you were watching him real close. Why were you doing that?
Cause I didn't know if it's a good bet. Cause he was showing his face.
And what was the first thing you noticed?
That he wasn't responding. Like he just looked really pale.
So if this was the chair,
Yeah.
he hit it, It has 4 legs going to the ground. Are all the legs on carpet?
No, the 2 legs are on the tile, and then the other 2 is like on the, it was like sideways, in other words, like this, and like this actually, because like the chair and everything, the blanket, is where he was trying to go at, and like when I dropped him, I wasn't paying attention, and then this was like on the rubber part to cover the ceiling or whatever, the round of the cement and the carpet, and like he hit it on the ceiling, like it went, like it
Okay.
wiggled.
Okay, I'll be back in a minute and have a seat.
We talked to the doctor, the pathologist is there.
What this daycare worker didn't realize was that in her desperate attempt to avoid jail, she had made the biggest mistake of her life. The officers had downplayed the consequences of confessing, and she was intimidated into making a false confession, leaving her second-guessing her own actions. What's even more twisted about this case is that, according to medical records, Benjamin had a previous injury that might have caused the incident. However, despite this evidence being presented in court, Melissa was sentenced to 31 years in prison for murder. After serving 16 years, she filed for a clemency hearing. This case leaves one wondering, how many people have been coaxed, intimidated, or falsely accused under similar circumstances? However, the man up next was anything but innocent. The act he put on to avoid jail was so chilling that it would scare even the strongest of cops.
Amazing grace. I see the moon sees someone I wish I could see. Give me back the clicker.
This is Kevin Eastman, and his story is nothing short of horrifying. On February 16, 2020, he was apprehended at a gas station in Keensburg, Colorado. Kevin insisted he was fleeing from his longtime girlfriend, Heather Frank, but in reality, he was trying to escape the aftermath of a crime, a scene so chilling it left even seasoned investigators shaken. Just days before, a horrifying discovery had been made. On February 10, 2020, a snowplow operator was out doing his job when he found the charred remains of a middle-aged man. Without hesitation, he called 911 and reported to the operators.
I'm on the Pingree Park Road at the Monument Gulch exit, and I have a dead body. Well, there was a tree on fire, and I went up to put it out, and he's laying next to it.
The crucial question was, whose remains were these? The police worked swiftly to piece together the puzzle. On February 11, 2020, a 73-year-old man had filed a missing person report for his 53-year-old son, Scott. As investigators meticulously aligned the clues, a trail of evidence began to form. Soon they discover DNA traces from a household item that would not only reveal Scott's fate, but also lead them straight to the man that had just been arrested. This is how his interrogation went.
I went over to the house because I know that she gets too drunk and I don't want her to lose her job.
Okay.
And I'm sure her car won't start if she's been drinking past a certain time, past 8 p.m. Been with her on the phone in the past, and it's just easier to just go in there and make sure she's up and give her a ride.
I heaved a couple times in the sink.
Yeah, like 20.
Okay. So what
She
room?
was all fucking, I don't know what you call it.
Can you get the trash can?
Scott's final Facebook chat had been with a woman named Heather Frank. Heather and Scott had recently met, and she had invited him over to her place. What he perhaps didn't know was that Heather, a mother of 3, had a tumultuous relationship with her ex, Kevin. An alcoholic with a volatile temper had spiraled out of control multiple times, and their relationship had ended in 2018. However, they kept dating on and off after that. But when Heather met Scott, she and Kevin hadn't seen each other for a good 2 months. Heather met Scott in early 2020, and there were instant sparks between them. All Scott wanted was to enjoy some time with Heather, but he was unaware that a terrible fate awaited him.
But I suffer multiple different. My head's gotten all screwed up, so I had a crush. So yeah, my memory's not always what it should be. But I think I'm usually pretty adamant about taking care of stuff like that.
Where do you live right now?
I'm kind of in between 3 places.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to see how much backstory. So like a year ago on Valentine's Day, the lady that I'd been with went through hell and back, treating each other bad.
Hey Kevin, there's something else we know too.
Okay.
Saturday night, you, Heather, and Scott were all at Heather's house. We know that. Okay, so why don't you walk us through what happened?
Tell us what happened with Scott.
On Saturday night.
Kevin, I think that you want to tell me, all right, and you're struggling with getting over a speed bump. We already know that you were there with Scott at Heather's house. Saturday night, the 8th, at 7 o'clock, between 6 and 7 is when Scott got there, okay? You remember when I told you about they were having communications with each other? We know that you were there, that Heather was there, and that Scott was there.
The police had collected Heather's cell phone records, as she was the primary suspect in Scott's disappearance. But guess what? While investigating, they traced another cell phone to the same house. And surprise, Kevin Eastman was the owner. It turned out he had been present at the scene the entire time.
I think it was like before when she told me she had a date and she asked me to leave.
Okay.
And that's when I wandered my phone for $100.
Okay.
Okay, tell us about being there with Scott.
Yeah. We know that you were there.
I don't remember anything.
Here's the thing,
Like a
Kevin.
dude named Scott.
You told us that you proposed to her. I mean, you feel very deeply for this woman.
I love her with all my heart.
I get that. And what you're telling us, there is no doubt that you love her more than anything. And loving a woman more than anything in this world. And, you know, it doesn't sound like she's toying with you, but intentionally, but for her
Yeah, it's not intentional.
but for her to go out and you know that she had intimate relations with Scott, that's like a, you know, not only sticking something in your chest, but it's twisting it too.
It's
I can
painful.
imagine you feel pretty awful.
Be callous to it from all the years that it's been going on.
Yeah, you say you might be callous to it, but there's still something though that, if not, you know, making you feel bad, your pride. Okay.
Oh, no, Scott, and I do it pride just my self-worth. It just makes me feel like, yeah, I try and be everything I can, and I still don't mean nothing to her.
So you're at this house with Heather, with Scott, the guy that you know she has slept with.
That would be awkward.
That would be very
Right.
awkward. Tell us what happened there. When you're with your person you proposed to a week later,
Right.
and Scott's there.
I don't even remember anybody named Scott. Easy grace, see the moon See someone I wish I could see. Frère Marjon, Très Marjon. Give me back the clicker.
While Kevin denied knowing anything, police interviewed others and uncovered troubling details about his relationship with Heather. Her friends and children testified to Kevin's history of physical abuse. The next morning, after Scott stopped responding through his phone, Heather's and Kevin's phones were tracked together, heading toward the park where Scott's body was found. After leaving the canyon, they returned to Heather's apartment. Detectives issued arrest warrants for Heather and Kevin and used GPS to track their movements. On February 15th, Heather was seen leaving her apartment with Kevin and getting into his car. Detectives followed Kevin's vehicle across rural Colorado, noting several stops. All of this indicated that Kevin was far from the innocent, memory-fogged individual he had portrayed himself to be.
I know you guys are probably tired and frustrated, and I'm sorry I can't answer your questions any better, but could we possibly help jog my memory? I know you don't believe that I can't remember.
Where's Heather?
What?
Where's Heather?
She's probably at work.
She's not at work.
She's
She's not home, and her car's home.
And we're at her house. Okay?
Run that by me again?
Where is Heather?
I thought she'd be at work.
She's not there. Okay?
And you're saying her car's at her house?
Remember?
She could be with Mike. I mean...
But you were there last night. You were at her house last night.
I was at her house yesterday afternoon, and then, like I said, she got mad. She's disappeared with Mike for a couple of days before. She almost lost her job.
The reason the officers are interrogating Heather is that ever since Kevin's arrest, she was nowhere to be found.
I can tell you where we sat. I remember that. I remember where we sat. I remember the waitress she hadn't been there very long. Oh gosh, man, we were really there, guys. We were really there. I can tell you that Heather spent $70 on a 6-pack. No, it would have been $70. When she went upstairs to the liquor store, there should be proof of her credit card receipt. Because I think we paid cash for it to breakfast. I don't know. We were really there. We really ate.
Okay, so you were at the Glen Echo. You're saying that you were there. Okay, but either before Glen Echo or after Glen Echo, you took a drive up to Pingree Park. Okay, you went up in the mountains and you were checking Forest Service road gates. And you guys drove up there. Okay?
I think Heather was sick.
Okay. And you guys got up there and what did you guys do?
And she wanted to go up to the mountains.
You guys drove up there and what did you do? You guys parked.
I just remember going to Glen Echo.
Kevin,
Okay.
are you covering for Heather?
Did Heather do something?
Was Heather defending herself against this guy? You went over there, she freaked out, there was a mess, and being the devoted partner you are to her,
You helped her, didn't you?
you cleaned up Heather's mess.
It's okay.
Well, I know that I should love her a lot. And now you guys got me worried because she didn't go to work today.
Kevin, let's talk about this weekend. We're not talking about today. Okay? You guys went up to the Poudre Canyon. You went up to Pingree Park. You went up there to drop Scott off. Okay? Because something happened between her and Heather, and you went to help her out because you are devoted to her. You will do anything to help her when she's in a jam. She doesn't respect you, but you will respect her. You will do anything to help her get out of a mess, right?
I love her a lot.
You do.
She loves me.
And you will love her to the point where you will help her do this. Kevin, what happened?
You're saying that this
We're saying that you were there, and we know that you were there, and you helped her get out of this.
over here, and I was living at Troy's where I work, and then sometimes I stay at Heather's house.
So where does Troy work at?
He owns Bonnell Trucking.
Bonnell Trucking? Okay, where's that at?
It's in Greeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's important to note that the day before his arrest, Kevin was seen burning something on Troy's property. Could it have been linked to Scott's murder? The cops were about to find out.
She gets in the front seat of your car. You put something in the back seat. You get in the car. She doesn't get out. No, hold on a second. We're watching this real quick, okay?
Well, I was just gonna show
Hold on a
you.
second. No, we're watching this.
Okay.
Okay, that's your car. And you drive away. And you want to know what this tells us? What we know is that you drove away with Heather last night and she never returned to your...
It's time to start talking.
This is the time that you need to talk. If you're not going to tell us the truth, then this conversation is over. Okay? So this is your chance. Kevin, look at me. This is your chance. There's another new development. Troy, who was out at the farm this morning, is currently in contact with Will County Sheriff's Office investigators, and he is talking. This is your chance to get in front of what he's saying. Kevin, look at me. Kevin, we need to start talking. You need to start telling us something. We can't keep going round and round with lies and stuff that's not true. No more games, Kevin. Tell us what happened.
All right, Kevin. Heather's dead. You know she's dead. Scott's dead.
All the evidence pointed directly to Kevin. Not only had he killed Scott, but he also murdered his ex-girlfriend, driven by pure jealousy. According to reports, Kevin showed up at Heather's home unannounced, begging for another chance to get back together. However, when he discovered she was seeing someone else, he snapped. In a fit of rage, he shot Scott and then coerced Heather into covering up his crime. But his paranoia didn't stop there. Realizing she was the only witness, he murdered her too. For someone who claimed to love her, Kevin was too arrogant to let her go. Even worse, after committing these horrific acts, he pretended to be forgetful in a desperate attempt to avoid the consequences. Ultimately, Kevin was convicted of double homicide. These barbaric acts make you question if there's any humanity left. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.